Are you just getting started with a Pinterest marketing strategy and you aren't sure what to expect in terms of growth? I'm Emily Vales. I'm a Pinterest marketing and ads strategist, and today I'm going to share with you what you should aim for in terms of growth on Pinterest. So there are 3 metrics that you probably are going to want to track when you are measuring that growth. So let's go ahead and talk about those metrics first, and then I'm going to share with you 7 different factors that could be impacting that growth. So now back to those metrics. The first metric that you are going to want to track is the number of impressions. So your impressions are simply the number of times a pinner is scrolling past your pins. That could be on their mobile device, their desktop. And when they scroll past your pin, that doesn't mean they are taking any action at all. And for that reason, impressions aren't the most important metric, because there's not really any intent there, obviously, when somebody's just scrolling past your pin. Now, the second metric is a really important metric because it shows a lot of intent, and that metric is your saves. So when somebody saves your pin, they are keeping that on one of their boards, and that shows a lot of intent. Therefore, it's a really important metric in the eyes of the Pinterest algorithm. Now, the third metric you are going to want to track are your outbound clicks. So that also shows a lot of intent. So when somebody is clicking on your pin, they can also click on the link that you are sharing with that pin. So Pinterest is a really great platform to drive traffic. So when you are getting people to leave Pinterest and go to your site, that's obviously a metric you want to track and see growth in. So now that we've talked about those 3 different metrics, now I want to share with you really a baseline in terms of growth. Now, keep in mind, I did say there are 7 different factors I'm going to share with you today that could be impacting this baseline of growth. So I say aim for 2 to 5% growth month over month. Now, if you're just getting started on Pinterest and you're starting from scratch, to see 2 to 5% growth month over month, it might not feel like very much, but Pinterest is really a long game platform, meaning you aren't going to see an explosion of growth right away, but if you are consistent, that month over month growth starts to really snowball. So let's go ahead now. So we've talked about the metrics that you're going to want to track and that growth rate, aim for 2 to 5% growth month over month. Let's talk about those 7 factors that could be impacting that 2 to 5% growth. So depending on these factors, you could see more growth than 5%, or you could see less growth than 2%. So the first factor is your consistency. Pinterest really depends on that consistency. So it's not going to work out for you very well if you start strong and you pin consistently for 1 month, and then the second month you just totally fall off the wagon. So I always tell people, figure out what is sustainable for you and stick with it. So I aim for at least 3 to 5 pins a day. And that could be a combination of standard pins, video pins, and idea pins. Now, the second factor that could be impacting that growth rate would be your niche. So are you in a really saturated niche? Are you in a not so saturated niche? Those are actually things that could be impacting your growth as well. Now, the third factor is something that is so important on Pinterest. And that third factor is your keywords. Especially when you're just getting started on Pinterest, it's so vital to do in-depth keyword research for your niche. Keywords, that is how your ideal audience is going to find you on Pinterest. When people go to Pinterest, they go to the search bar and they start typing in what they want: ideas, inspiration, solutions to their problems. That's what they're typing in. And then once they hit that enter button, they are seeing pins come up. So if you want to surface in your ideal audience or your ideal clients' searches, you have to know what they're actively searching for on the platform. So I always recommend, before you even start creating boards and creating pins, that you do that in-depth keyword research first, and that you have a system, whether that be Google Sheets or Airtable, some way that you're keeping those keywords organized that you want to use in your content. So because Pinterest, to its core, is a search engine, those keywords are going to heavily impact the results you see on Pinterest. So when you're aiming for that 2 to 5% growth, make sure that you have this really strong keyword strategy. Now, the next factor, this is the fourth factor that could be impacting your Pinterest growth, is your content. So are you creating fresh content? And are you creating fresh content consistently? The Pinterest algorithm changed a few years ago, and with that change, there was this push for fresh content. So Pinterest wants pinners to be coming back to the platform. And in order for them to want to come back, they want to be seeing new pins, new ideas, new inspiration. So Pinterest changed the algorithm to really push Pinterest creators to create more fresh content. So if you are not creating fresh content regularly and consistently, then that also is going to impact your growth. Now, the fifth thing that could be impacting, that fifth factor that could be impacting your overall growth, is your pin design. So let's say you nailed the keywords, you know exactly what your audience is searching for. They see your pin surface in their search results, but then your pin design falls flat. You have to understand what is going to resonate with your ideal audience, what is going to stop their scroll, what do they want to save for later, what is going to get them to take action. So click on that pin and then leave the platform. So you want to make sure that you have that really strong pin design, because that is going to heavily impact your Pinterest growth. Because remember, going back to those metrics we talked about, saves and outbound clicks are so important. And in order to get people to save your pin or to leave the platform, then you have to have that strong pin design where it's catching their eye and it's encouraging them to take action. Now, the sixth factor that could be impacting your growth are your tactics. Now, what I mean by tactics is how many times a day you're pinning, what type of pins you're pinning, how many boards you're pinning your pins to, the number of intervals between your pins, all of those details. That is going to impact your growth rate. And pro tip, if you're like, Emily, oh my gosh, whoa, that was a lot of information, be sure to check out the link in my profile where you can watch my free masterclass. I really break down Pinterest marketing and creating that strategy. So if I kind of just blew your mind talking about the tactics, be sure to watch that masterclass. Or you can also visit my blog where I have tons of free resources breaking down, one blog post in particular, breaking down the difference between your Pinterest strategy and those tactics. So what I want you to gather from that though, those tactics, they do have an impact on your overall growth on Pinterest. So the last factor that we are going to talk about in terms of your growth rate is sharing. So are you sharing your Pinterest account with your email list? Do you have share buttons on your site? Are you sharing about your Pinterest on your social media? When people know that you're on Pinterest, then if they're already following you on social media or if they're already on your email list, then that can help grow your Pinterest account. So that is a really simple way to increase that growth overall. And here's a really great example of something that you could do very easily with, for example, your email list. Let's say you created a new pin or maybe even a new board on Pinterest that you think your audience would be interested in following. Then you can go ahead and share that pin or that board and tell people, hey, go check out this board and then follow me on Pinterest. So once people follow you, they're going to start seeing your pins and it's going to start surfacing in their feed. They're more likely to take action, and then it starts to create that snowball effect. So just as a quick recap, there are 3 different metrics that you really are going to be tracking when you are measuring that growth overall, that 2 to 5%. Those are your impressions, your saves, and your outbound clicks. And then there's 7 different factors that we talked about here today that you are going to want to consider that could be impacting that growth, good or bad. And that's consistency, your niche, keywords, your content. Are you creating fresh content? Your pin design, your tactics, and sharing. Are you making it easy for people to go and follow you and also share your content? So let me know in the comments if this video was helpful. Be sure to like this video and also subscribe here to my channel. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.